What up, YouTube? What up, fam? What's good? Story time. Story time. Episode 2. Brooklyn, New York, 1984. I'm an 8-year-old runaway. I've already been, I guess, detained by New York City Police Department. And because I was a runaway in need of supervision, I had what you call a PINS petition placed on me. It's a person in need of supervision, which is something that the New York City court system used to do. I don't know if they still do it, but they do that for children and adults, actually. And if the court deems that you are a person in need of supervision, they hopefully you can hear me. Microphone check. I don't know. Anyway, 1984. I'm an 8-year-old runaway in the city of New York, and I have been chased by the police in my mother's Oldsmobile Omega, which I used to steal from the age of 7 and drive to public school 161 on Crown Street in Brooklyn, New York. So the police chased me, took me into their custody. My mother came to pick up her vehicle. She was also employed by the New York City Police Department. She came to pick up her vehicle, and they would not release me in her custody. So, being that they didn't have any place to put me, they put me in Kings County Psychiatric Ward, the G building, in the children's unit. I stayed in Kings County G building for, I believe, 5 or 6 months. And let me tell you something. It was a fucking horror. They were giving me Ritalin and Thorazine, which I can't remember what they are now at this point, but I believe they are drugs to keep a person calm. So I would sit in my. They kept us in. I was suicidal too. I had suicidal ideations. So they kept me in blue room. It was a room with padded blue walls. It had like those gym mats from the school. Had those gym mats like affixed to the wall, crystal blessings. So I would sit in that room for the first month. I just sat in that room like 23 hours a day. They will let you out for like an hour for recreation and to bathe. So let me tell you about this hospital of horrors. In Kings County Hospital, there were staff that were homosexual, and they were pedophiles. I grew up as a child around nothing but pedophiles, which makes me believe that pedophilia and molestation was running rampant in the 80s and 90s. I can definitely see that it's probably 1,000 times worse now. But anyway, long story short, there was a staff member there named Paul, and he was a big old, big man, big old white man, and he had the biggest fucking hands, like the biggest fucking hands. And Paul loved little black boys. Okay, I cannot remember his last name. It might have been Fitzgerald, Mr. Fitzgerald, or some shit like that. I can't remember. But anyway, he was a fucking extreme pervert. I used to hear him at night in the rooms. He was a night staff member. I would hear him in the I guess they were dorms is what they call them. Uh, and there's gonna be a theme in my life of these residential treatment facilities and mental wards calling these rooms dorms, and also colleges calling room dorms. There's some kind of fucking correlation between that shit. I don't know what, but they go hand in hand. Because I could tell you some, I'm gonna tell you some stories later on about me in Syracuse College, the dorm life with Donovan McNabb, because I used to play football for Syracuse. So yeah, Donovan McNabb. I played with Donovan McNabb. I got some stories for you on that too. But anyway, I'm an 8 year old in New York City living in Kings County Hospital psychiatric ward. I'm constantly I was one to act out. I will fight the staff. I'll get back to Paul in a moment and why I was eventually sent to Spofford, a a boys juvenile detention center. I don't know if it's boys, but a juvenile detention center in the Bronx, New York. So I would listen to Paul at night where he would be abusing these other boys, and there was a few of them. It wasn't just one at a time. It'd be like throughout the whole night on his shifts. Tell the staff. I told many staff members. I told many staff members. I told many psychologists in that building. Nothing was done about Paul. So in recreation, in the rec, they used to have these little bats, Louisville slugger bats, little real little one. They wasn't too little, but they were handheld bats. And I snuck one out of that damn wreck. Okay. And Paul he came in to I call it a cell. He came into my dorm to give me my medicine that evening. And he came in the dorm and there was no, like furniture in there except for the bed that folded down off the wall. It was like a Murphy bed type situation, but it was metal. So I was sitting on the little Murphy bed, and he came over to give me my medicine, and he sat down on the little Murphy bed next to me. So I already knew what it was. You know what I'm saying? I already knew what it was. So I reached under my had the little thin ass fucking mattress on there. It wasn't a mattress. It was like a 2 inch piece of foam, and I took hold of that bat and I cracked that motherfucker right in the back of his head, right behind his ear. That motherfucker yelped. Ah! I kept beating on that, and see what he did was he closed the dorm door. You're not supposed to close no fucking dorm door. It's just you, the staff member, and a little boy in it. You're not supposed to close that fucking door. So when the other staff members came running, rushing to see what was going on, because at that time they didn't have cameras in the room. Now they do, but they didn't have cameras in each individual dorm. So he was at my fucking mercy. And I beat Paul. I beat that man. I tried to beat him within an inch of his life. I mean, the bat wasn't, it was a wooden bat. And it was little, but it was still a damn bat. And I was a fat kid with a lot of anger and vengeance in me. And that's what happened to Paul. So the hospital police came because Kings County had their own New York City hospital police. I'm not sure if they were the only hospital with the hospital police, but they were one of the few that had hospital police. So the hospital police came and tried to put their handcuffs on my little 8-year old wrist, and that shit didn't work. So they used zip ties, and they took me out of Kings County Hospital, and they took me to a place called Spofford in the Bronx, which is a boys. Well, I don't know if it's a boys, but it's a juvenile detention center for children. I think 15 and under. I think if you was 15 and under, you went to Spofford. They had 6-year olds in Spofford. Okay, waiting for placement. Spofford was a place where if you had some charges on you in New York City and you were waiting, you were waiting to be placed in a more permanent juvenile detention center. So Spofford was like a temporary holding center for offenders that were waiting to be placed in the higher up detention centers in the system. So that was my stint in Kings County Hospital mental ward. I'm 8 years old. So now I go to Spofford, and in Spofford, the first 20 minutes in Spofford, and after being processed in Spofford, being processed in Spofford, the juvenile detention center, is exactly like being processed in an adult detention center. Same process. It's just your child. So my first day in Spofford, I got into a fight with one of the officers. I had issues with authority figures because every authority figure thus far in my life had tried to fucking molest me. So I had problems with authority figures. Parents excluded from that. They were the only authority figures that, didn't try to fucking molest me in my life as a child. So I was already an alcoholic because my stepfather was an alcoholic. At 8 years old, I was already an alcoholic. Started out with wine, and my stepfather was an alcoholic. My biological father never drank alcohol, never smoked a cigarette, never used drugs a day in his life. Just abused women and people. But my stepfather, I watched him drink from, you know, about 4 years old. And I started drinking at about 7. Started with wine and Hennessy. So I'm in Spofford Juvenile Detention Center, 8 years old. And my first day in, I get into a fight with a I guess they call him correction officer or juvenile detention officer they call him. And it wasn't because he tried to molest me or anything like that. It was just because I didn't want nobody to run me. I didn't want nobody to think that they could fucking run me. So got into a fight with that officer, and I got put into. They had these little segregation units, so they put me in segregation, and I was in segregation there in Spofford for between 50 and 60 days. So by the time I got out of Spofford, no, a segregation, it was getting to be summertime. It was really hot, and got out of segregation, and they assigned me to a unit. So my roommate, the fuck was his name? Chad. His name was Chad. A little West Indian boy named Chad. He was a real little guy, and I was big. So he took me on as like a big brother because he was bullied in there and shit. And ironically, as big as I was bullied too because they used to like to make fat jokes and shit like that. So I used to stay fighting. So in Spofford, they had martial arts classes. They had judo and tai chi. I took both, and it stuck with me because whenever I was on my own, I mean like not on my own, but out of institutional settings, like in a foster home or something, I was always in Tai Chi classes. So I've been doing martial arts since I was young boy, 8, 9 years old. Then my brother Julio got me into Aikido when I was a teenager. So I've always been one to be able to physically defend myself, which was important to me because I was in the system. And in the system, you must know how to defend yourself. Okay. I'm in Spofford, and in Spofford, the showering system was crazy because you taking showers with groups of little boys and shit. It's really sick. So I didn't like that. It wasn't my thing. You know what I'm saying? Because from young, I was afraid to grow up to be a homosexual. Okay. I never masturbated as a child. I've still to this day never watched a porn movie. I'm 49 years old. I've never watched a porn movie. I've never partaken in a strip club setting. I've worked at strip clubs as a bouncer, but I've never patronized a strip club a day in my life. I'm 49 years old. I've never knowingly bought pussy. Never, never paid a prostitute, you know, knowingly, never. Um, and here's why. My mother burned into my head. She was a Jehovah's Witness as a child that those four things will keep me from going to heaven. Oh, and number five, pissing outside. Like pissing, like you outside and you gotta piss against a wall, something like that. Never. Until I got much older. Until I got in my 20s, almost 30. Never did that. Because my mother, there was some scripture in the Bible, she sees some crazy shit. Um Anyway, she had me scared to death not to get in there. I didn't give a fuck about the rest of the shit I was doing, using drugs or abusing women. Like that. But them sexual things, she fucked me up with that shit as a child, man. So I never experienced none of that shit as a child. Anyway, in Spofford, out of Spofford, when I got out of Spofford, they uh, placed me with an agency in Queens, New York called St. Joseph's Children's Services. I think it was a Catholic foster care adoption agency. So they rushed me to my first EFB EFBH, emergency foster boarding home, in the back of a police car in handcuffs. Like, what kind of shit is that? So they took me to the foster home. I had zero clothes. I had nothing. And I remember to this day, the lady lived off of Atlantic Avenue in Brooklyn, like 160th Street, something like that, in Richmond Hill, Queens. Her name was Stella Graves. Nice lady, lovely lady. She was a drunk. She was an alcoholic, and so was her husband, and her husband was a fucking pedophile, a rapist. I think his name was Richard Graves. Yeah, a pedophile. They already had four foster children in their home. She had a nice house in Queens. She didn't have four bedrooms, but she had four damn foster children plus her son. So that's five. Four foster kids plus her son, and her son's name was Richard too, but Red was his nickname. So Mr. Graves used to like to get drunk and touchy feely on boys, squeeze and touch boys. So I reported it to. He didn't try me. I don't know what about it. I don't know what about my spirit, my aura, but he didn't fucking try me. But I saw him with the others. There was three boys and one girl that had their foster kids. And oh shit, I fucked up. Oh man, I got a hell of an experience. All right, so boom. While I was living in, while I was living with Miss Graves, they put me in school. I can't remember the name of the school that they put me in Queens, but they put me in a school. I was in so many schools in my life. It don't make. I went to about 10 different elementary schools. Um, One day I played hooky from school, and a Hispanic guy, in a red Toyota Celica convertible, the one that had the eyes in the back that go like this, shit look like cat's eyes. They go like, I don't know if y'all can see this, but the eyes in the back of the car go like this. It was a red Toyota Celica convertible. Uh, and he just picked me up. I was just walking down Atlantic Avenue, and he just he stopped the car. He might have beeped the horn or some shit and picked me up. And my dumb ass got in the fucking car. Now, all I remember, where did that cigarette go? Is that he was a Hispanic male. Okay. Now, I do remember all the screwdrivers, is what vodka and orange juice. I do remember a lot, drinking a lot of them shits. I mean, I'm fucking 8 years old. How much could I possibly? Where the fuck did my cigarette just go? Oh, here you go. How much could I possibly consume at 8 years old? You thinking, right? Probably a hell of a lot. What did I say? Probably a hell of a lot. So I do remember driving that car. I remember driving that damn red Toyota Celica convertible through the streets of Queens, and the guy is sitting over there with, like, actually had the bottle of fucking vodka and the orange juice in the car, like mixing fucking, yo. It was anyway. I do not remember anything after that, but I remember waking up on the corner of Stella Graves' block with people just like slapping me and shit, throwing water on me, slapping me, and that was it. I don't know what happened. I don't know where we went. I don't know. I don't know nothing. But I know that it was a red Toyota Celica with the slant tail lights, brake lights that slant go up like that. I remember that shit because I was driving that shit and it was a convertible. And this was in the summer because I had just got out of Spofford and they had just put me in St. Joseph's Children's Services. Yep, yep. So anyway, I used to after that I used to like to go to the I think it's called the Boys Club or some shit. I think whatever Denzel company Denzel used to represent in the commercial. I think it's the Boys Club of America. I used to go there a lot, and I was a prolific pool player already because my biological father, Reverend Doctor, owned a pool hall in Schenectady. So I have been playing pool since I was like able to stand up to the pool table, like 3 years old. So I used to even in I used to kill a man in pool as a kid. I think it was Spofford. I think it was Spofford. I was like the pool king and shit. Anyway, so hey, it's my dogs. Better stop. Y'all better relax. So I'm sorry, y'all. I have some real bad focus issues. You know, over 20 something years of drugging, using drugs and alcohol deteriorates the mind horribly. So it's hard for me to stay on point. But playing pool, okay, Boys Club of America. So I used to hustle playing pool from 8 years old. I used to make probably about $20 to $30 a day. I mean that ain't no big money, but shit, in '84 for an 8 year old to have $20 to $30 a day walking around in his pocket, that's a lot of money. So I used to hustle pool at the Boys Club in Queens, and I also started bowling. I became a very good bowler at a young age. Thanks to one, my aunt Verna, and two, the Boys Club of America, and just being institutionalized. So I think that's all I'm gonna give y'all for today. We're gonna stop there at my first foster home in Queens, where I had to, watch that molestation and pedophilia and all that other crazy shit that children go through in this thing called life. That's it for today, y'all. That's story time. Listen, the moral of this message is parents, love and take care of your children, man. Do what you got to do to keep them out the fucking system. I'm gone, y'all. This your boy Bishop Low on the go. Thanks for listening. Hey, do me a favor, like, comment, share, subscribe. Hey, if you feel led, you can donate. You can support me at $ Indomitable Taxi. That's Cash App, $INDOMITABLETAXI. I'm gone, y'all. Church.